unmute and a brief introduction yourself. Hello, Sydney, are you there? Maybe if you are not able to mute and talk, you can drop that on the chat. So OT, hello, we can hear you. Why?
Thank you. My name is Richard Otieno. I am the treasurer at Tripoli UL plus student. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Otieno, for joining us. Very much welcome to be here. So, Patricia, Lucy, can say hi where you are joining from. Hello, Patricia, Lucy, Onondo, are you there? And also feel free to drop that on the chat box. So Isaac Malan.
Okay, my name is Isaac Malan. Joining from Accra. I'm a member of the Ghana session.
Okay, we are very happy to have you, Isaac, from Accra. Thank you very much for joining us. Welcome. So Alan Kimeli, can say hi. Where you're joining from?
Hello, my name is Alan Kimeli. I'm from the Moi University chapter.
Thank you very much, Alan. So Okun Nola, you're done. The name is quite hard for me. You can say hi. Where you're joining from?
Hello, did you mention a building?
Yeah, you are audible.
Hello?
Hello, we can hear you. You can go ahead and introduce yourself. Hello, Okunola, you are on mute. Maybe unmute and say an introduction. Okay. So thank you very much.
Sorry, Abiodun here. Sorry, Abiodun Okwala, the network kept going. Joining from Nigeria.
Okay, thank you very much, Okunola, and thank you, Hope Nigeria. You're doing fine. We are very privileged to have you. So I see Samia has joined. Maybe Samia, you are doing some introduction. You can unmute. Maybe tell us where you're joining from. Hello, Samia. Can you do that, or maybe you can drop that on the chat? I see Simba says from South Africa Power Pool in Harare, Zimbabwe. We are very happy and to have you here. Thank you very much for joining us. I see we have members from all over the Africa, from Accra, from Nigeria, from Kenya, from South Africa, Zimbabwe. So we will be going to have training on financial engineering. One of the experts in Kenya and who has been doing very much on that in Africa Council. So the training is put together by IEEE Moi University. We happen to have a funding from site to do a project on a smart kiosk. Hope you are familiar with that kiosk. A kiosk is an open-end art where people make of the beach. So we hope to do an improvement of what currently happens to be in the society and improve on that. So as part of that, we received some funds and we want to make something great. So we are creating these trainings to be able to help us maybe learn on project management, financial aspect of any project, and a key aspect of project development. So we happen to have our team lead who happens to be the IEEE Young Professionals here in Kenya, and I would like to welcome Gitau Muriungi, who will later welcome the speaker of today. So Gitau, feel free and take the floor. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you very much, Chris, and kindly confirm that you can hear me well.
Yeah, you are audible and clear from my side.
Perfect, thank you. So thank you very much, everyone, and we are really grateful to hear that we have people logging in from 4 countries in particular. We have Nigeria, Ghana, Zimbabwe, and Kenya. That aside, I think Chris has defined why we are here. And maybe I'll just iterate what he has said, but maybe with different words. So IEEE Moi University Student Branch with Chris as the lead, and myself, Kitinji Muriungi, as the member, IEEE member in charge of the project, happened to get awarded $5,000 to do a project called Smart Kibanda. So maybe for those ones from different countries, a kibanda is a kiosk, but these are just open kiosk where you will find most of them are maybe built with iron sheets or just normal timber, where it's not something very secure, unlike the high-end modern kind of kiosks. And through that project, being the lead, I think I realized there is always a need to upskill your team, so that when most of them are students, not even most of them, all of them are students from Moi University, and there is always a need, at least when they are done with the project, they understand different aspects that comes with the project, because the end goal of this is, of course, to deliver the project. But again, the learning aspects, when observed, it can really nurture the whole entire team of 13, 12 people, so that next they can even be able to handle projects on their own, even when they start doing this in their professional careers. And that's how the journey started. We've done project management training, a 2-hour training. We've done leadership and volunteer while handling this kind of projects, because these are in particular humanitarian project. And this time around, we are doing financial management, because this is the key aspects. We have a limited budget, we have a limited timeline, and we have a scope that needs to be achieved and accomplished. And later, probably for those ones who are here, pay close attention, because we'll also be having a product development kind of a training with an expert in that area too. So without much ado, I'll welcome our speaker of the day, Tim Gitau, or Timothy Gitau, whom I've known for, I'll say, more than 4, 5, almost 5 years now, 6 years, since I joined IEEE. Tim has, in most cases, been the key guy behind finances, from the section and right now to IEEE Africa Council. Maybe for those ones who may not know, probably they may assume that Tim is an accountant, but I leave that surprise for him, so that he can share that as a surprise to maybe members, so that we get to understand that even though we are engineers, and this goes to most of the students who are here, you also need, apart from you being an engineer and a very technical one, you also need to have these financial skills and financial knowledge, because it will really help you in so many things that you do, profession-wise, career-wise, and also in such kind of projects. And without much ado, I'll leave that to Tim, and I welcome Tim. so that he can take us through the next phase. Tim, karibu.
Asante sana Gidenji. Can you guys hear me and see me?
Yes, Tim.
Okay, so I will use a video as I'm introducing myself, and then we'll turn it off. I might also get interrupted. I'm a little bit older than you guys, so I have a son, and today is a holiday here in the US. So I'm currently in Boston, and it's a holiday. It's Thanksgiving, and he's home, so he might interrupt me. So anyway, I will let you guys know if that happens. But as Gidinji said, I'm Tim Gitau from the Kenya section, originally in terms of originally from Kenya, residing in Boston now. Hope to be back in Kenya soon. But first off, as Gidinji mentioned, I am not a finance guy, but have learned finance from working on personal finance, obviously personal budgeting and reading books and implementing things on personal finances. And also realizing in projects that I have worked on here in the US and some in Canada and mostly in sub-Saharan Africa when I was based in Kenya. These projects are very much from the beginning to the end. Money and finance is a big thing for the company and for the customer. So in this case, this project you would say is basically you are the guys who are implementing a project, but there is essentially an owner or somebody who is responsible for this money that you were given for this Smart Kibanda project. So you have to think about it in terms of what are their needs, what are their expectations, what do they want to see done with the money, what kind of things are we looking at, and then also for the team, what are the expectations of this team in terms of how the money will be spent? What are they looking forward to in terms of how the project will be implemented? How well is the budget written? How well is the communication around finances? So in addition to my personal and professional experience with money, I as Gidinji mentioned, also have been working with currently in charge of finances for the Africa Council for the last 2 years, which covers all the IEEE Sub-Saharan Africa sections. And we run an annual, I think our annual balance sheet is around $50,000 on that entity. Previously, obviously, I was responsible for the Kenya section finances for 2 years, but also for Power Africa conference. I have been fortunate to be assigned treasurer there. So I am treasurer for the last 2 years and for the upcoming Power Africa conference next year in Kigali. And that's a pretty big event that has a balance sheet of $60,000 to $100,000. So it does take a lot of financial know-how, which I don't have. So we have a team in the conference, and they help out with ideas and implementing some of the things that we need to do on finances. So enough about me. Thank you very much for joining. As I said, I will stop the video now and we will go right into the presentation. Thank you. Let me know if you can see the presentation.
Yeah, I can. From my side.
Can everyone see the presentation?
I can see it from my end too.
Okay. So I will proceed. This is training on finance management and accounting in engineering projects. The principles and the concepts discussed here can be used in applied in various projects. Obviously, we are here because of the Smart Kibanda project, but the principles are transferable to some of any other projects. And at the end of this, and I will share this PowerPoint to Chris and Gidinji, and they can distribute it. So you will have this for your records. So 3 main points to discuss today. The first two, well, I think the first point and the third point is more general. Budgeting, the second point will be general, but also we will be looking at the specific Smart Kibanda budget and discussing that budget. So once I finish my points, there will be a discussion around point number 2 in regards to the Smart Kibanda budget. So in terms of project finances, I think you always want to start, as with anything, with the end in mind. And if you think about the end, then you have to think about overall project cost, meaning what you have an initial amount of $5,000, but is that the overall project cost? Is the overall project cost going to be $4,000? Is it going to be $5,000 or $6,000? So you have to always start with that and start asking yourself those questions, that kind of a question, which will start guiding you in terms of the finances. And the second question is you have to ask is how will the cost be spread out across project milestones? So there are specific milestones in the project. Obviously, first is to get the team together, have a budget, buy some material. Maybe the second one is to start putting the material together, starting to see how maybe you test everything, make sure everything is working. So these project milestones, you have to always know where you are with the cost. And then the third point is tracking. So you always have to have a tracking mechanism, and that also ties into the fourth point. Reporting cost data periodically. So as you're tracking this, you're also reporting it. So you have to decide: are you going to use some sort of Google document? Are you going to use Excel? So you always have to start with that. So this kind of questions have to be addressed, and you have to decide as a team what works for everyone. And also communication mode. So is it a group on WhatsApp? Is it emails? Which one works best for everyone so they can be updated? And then the last point here is how will you handle scenarios in which projects are running over or under? So both of those scenarios present opportunities and challenges. So you have to be able to think about those scenarios. The second slide discusses again more on the general project finance. So understanding the stakeholder true needs and wants. So your stakeholders are obviously the team that will be building the Smart Kibanda, the vendors, meaning the people you're buying the products from, any kind of service provider is a stakeholder. Obviously, HSC, hack the people who provide the funding stakeholders. So they will need to all be put into a grid and understand what their true needs and wants are in this project. And then the second point is recognize when circumstances have changed. So as we have seen in the last year, obviously things can change drastically with COVID. So if things do happen and circumstances change, I'm not saying that drastically, but things can change. So for instance, one of the things that could happen is key team members for this project could be out for some reason, be it a family reason or be it some other challenge. So how do you deal with that kind of change? So those are things to consider. So the third point is precisely identify and manage the change. So when things like that happen, you have to identify what the impact on the project will be, what the impact on the budget will be. So for instance, if you're dealing with a vendor and for some reason things change with that vendor or you're dissatisfied and you have to switch, now you're looking for another vendor. If you had already put a down payment that you cannot get back from that vendor, how will that impact your budget changing to another vendor? So you have to look at all those things and identify and manage those kind of risks and changes. And then you have to develop relevant project key performance indexes. So knowing exactly what your KPIs are is very important for your team also and for yourself. So you can actually have synergy as you go through the project, and everyone understands what the goals are. So that way there's no confusion as to what the team is working on and what the end goal will be. And then the last point is revisit, review, and reforecast finances. So you always have to go back. The finances at some point is a static thing, but it's also a dynamic thing, meaning that you start with a budget, which we will look at. It's now a static budget, meaning that it has specific items and it has specific values. But as you go through the projects, you will find some of those things maybe cost less and some cost more than you budgeted. So you have to then switch and make it a dynamic document and be able to adapt. Moving on to budgeting. Budgeting, ideally, you start with historical data. So in terms of, as I mentioned, when you're doing, say, personal budgets, you use, for instance, you start looking at how much money you make as salary or how much money you have to spend for the month. And then you also look at last month or the month before and see, what is rent, what is electricity, what is petrol. So ideally you look at historical data and then you look at lessons learned to come up with budgets. Now in this case, we have not built another smart kibanda, but we have a rough idea of what material will cost, or maybe we have received some quotes from vendors, and that's what we are using. Second point is leverage your expertise. So we leverage the people who are good project managers, need to be assigned as project managers. People who are good at dealing with vendors need to be assigned as, the people who will deal with the vendors. The people who are good at reporting and keeping track in Excel or another software, those people need to be put in that place. So you leverage your expertise as a team, and also as a section. So when you look at maybe some of those things in terms of like not just this team, you can leverage expertise that is within the Kenya section. Confirming accuracy is always good when you're dealing with money, so that way you don't have any any kind of things that pop up that is estimates. So you always want to have specifics when you're dealing with money, so that way you can have you can have a realistic view of where you are with the money. Baselining and re-baselining the budget again goes back to what we were talking about in terms of making sure every time you go back in and you update and make sure you have an accurate amount, and making it more of a thing that you do, you update frequently, will be a great benefit. Tracking and updating in real time is good. So real time doesn't have to be. I mean, you set your real time goals. So it can be weekly, it can be monthly. So depending on what the timeline from beginning to end is for the project, then you have to set goals on what the budget update will be. So it could be monthly, it could be weekly, things like that. The last point here is very important. Assigning a project manager or finance manager, so you can have one or both. So ideally, you want to have someone who is has that strength. So, but you want to have them working together if it's two separate people, so they always communicate, and they make sure that everything is aligned. So we'll look into the specifics here. This is so far what I have received from Gitinji in terms of what the outlined figures are as of right now. So we can clearly see a lot of this is material. We can see some electrical, so like refrigeration units for the kibanda. We see CCTVs. We see some electrical appliances, some sensors, and there's a cost assigned to miscellaneous. So this is a good budget. I think it highlights that there is what the plan is, what the initial plan will be for the smart kibanda. So when we start working on this, or I don't know how much has been done in terms of purchasing, but we can go into discussion now. We obviously have to come back, and this is where we'll open up a discussion and start talking about some of the things that we have to look at. So when you look at the numbers, and is there any cost? You have to ask now, start asking these questions. Is there going to be, obviously the kibanda has to be put together. Is there a space where that will be done that has to be rented, or is there a vendor? Is there someone who is being paid to put together the kibanda, or is it being done by the volunteers? If it's the volunteers, is there additional cost to like things that they will need to do this? So welding tools, anything like that, all those things, anything from electricity cost, space that is being rented. So we have everything that is needed to put it together, but the actual labor and everything that goes with the labor needs to also be a part of the budget. If it's not the volunteers, then point number 2 is we have to start asking what is labor cost. So if it's some things that cannot be done by the volunteers because of the expertise that is required, and the tools and using the tools. So maybe you have to go to a Juakali place. What is that labor cost? Right. So you have to include that. And then third point is vendor agreement. So when you start thinking about those kind of people, when you are doing labor, or even if there is anything here that is essentially going to be, for instance, maybe solar panels and inverters. So maybe there's a down payment for solar panels and inverters. And then once the goods are delivered, there's another payment. I'm just assuming. But ideally, you want to look at those agreements and ask what those agreements will be. The same for labor, the same for any kind of, maybe if there's renting tools or space. Those vendor agreements are very important to have down and to know how much money you have. So that way you're not spending, more money on down payments and less and having less for other things. So you reduce the amount of down payment you're putting down. So 20%, and then after everything. So an example would be 20% down or 30% and then 70 after. So that way you're reducing the amount of money that you're putting out. So project risks have to be acknowledged and discussed from the beginning. If there is any kind of delay in parts, delay in delivery, delay in construction or any kind of other things that need to be done. So, if you've spent money on something and there's a delay, and maybe say, for instance, you are renting and you're renting, say, a space where you're going to put this together. And there's a delay in the parts arriving. How do you deal with the fact that the space obviously now, maybe you have to extend the rental, or if maybe you pay someone to do work and they delay and it's causing, it has an impact on something else. How do you deal with those kind of delays? So risk mitigation is important. And then obviously, again, managing the costs. So we discussed previously on another slide. So if things go bad and you have to change vendors or things like that, and you've already spent money, even money doing legwork, say if it's taxi or any expense that was spent, you have to consider that as cost that may be lost whenever you have to make these changes. So I think starting with this end in mind from the beginning is very important, and discussing all these aspects. So these are things that need to be discussed. But I'll be finishing up soon, and we can come back to this slide and any other questions after the next slide, which is going to be my last discussion slide. So the last point, as with anything and everything, whenever you're dealing with finances, you have to report. So you have to report back to HSC on how this went. And you have to understand what those guidelines are in terms of final financial reporting. So is there a spreadsheet they want you to use specifically? I think I saw there was a spreadsheet, so you have to know exactly what that spreadsheet needs, and make sure you follow the guidelines. Second point is very important. So you have to be very transparent and detailed in costs. So one of the things that is good to do, for instance, when you're setting a budget, is have a line item, like we can see here, miscellaneous. That's okay, because you're saying there are things that may come up that we'll use that money for. But when you're doing a final report, you can't have a miscellaneous item, because that tells whoever gave you the money that, the person doesn't know what this means. So when you're doing your final reporting, you have to be very transparent and detailed. So you have to go back to miscellaneous and itemize what miscellaneous was. The third point is using the tools. So ideally, you want to use what they gave you. If it's an Excel, I prefer PowerPoint because then it gives you, in addition to the Excel, you can do a PowerPoint presentation just to have a more professional look, and it gives you credibility also in terms of future work. So keep in mind that these HSC projects are not just this one. So there'll be more and more in the future. And obviously, the only thing, mostly they look at historically who has done the best work, and they look at the final report. What did we get from Moi University as the final report? And then they obviously look at that and say, okay, so these guys, they did a good job on the Smart Kibanda. Their final report was transparent and detailed. In addition to the Excel sheet we gave them, they also had a PowerPoint. So all that is historical data. So when the next project comes around for bid, then they're able to say, okay, these guys are credible. Let's go with let's give them $10,000 now. And the last point is to communicate clearly and frequently all stakeholders on finances. So obviously, I'm not sure exactly how frequent the reporting to HSC has to be. It's maybe you have to report. I'm not sure, Gitau, maybe you can speak on this once I'm done. Maybe let's say maybe you report mid, and the project is in the middle, and at the end. So at that reporting, whatever cycle it is, you have to be clear and you have to be timely. I know, obviously, for instance, like things like Power Africa, which we just finished, you always have to keep people updated on finances during weekly or bi-weekly calls, and then obviously at the end. And it's not just the HSC, but also your team. Your team has to know what's going on with the money. Transparency is very important with the team. So that way it eliminates any kind of mistrust during a project. So I've included some references online. You can click on the links and you can read up. There's more content here than I presented. And with that, I'll thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to present this. And we'll open it up for discussion now, whichever way you want to go. But ideally, be more specific on this project, or if you have any general questions, you can also ask. Thank you. So Gitau, back to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Tim, for that. I believe the team and specifically the guys who are working on this project, most of them are here. And it's also really an honor to have Humphrey amongst us. Last week, he was sharing with us regarding leadership and volunteer. And maybe Humphrey, you can just say hi and then I can move on to making my comment.
Hello, everyone.
Okay, thank you, Humphrey. So maybe what I like to say is in terms of the budget or the slide that you are referring to, most of the stuff that have been happening in terms of the team from the time I joined the team, because I was not initially in the project, but when the project was applied, I was brought in to lead this project in particular. So I'll say I looked at the budget, and maybe what I realized is as most of the budget had only taken care of material only. Maybe I'd like you, Tim, to make a comment into that. Of course, I've not reached at a point where I will make a comment or say we need to rectify on this, we need to rectify on that, we need to change the design, we need to change the timeline, we need to. I've not reached at that point. I wanted all of us, especially the entire team, to get engaged, to get to hear from different people, from project managements, why agile, why waterfall, now we are doing finances, why do we need an exact budget. Why do we need maybe a budget which is 80% taking care of the 80%, so that we leave 20% for maybe other chances? Why do we need maybe to avoid 100% budgeting, among other things? And as the team lead, I've not gone deeper into telling the team or maybe discussing the team what exactly we need to do. But what we've been doing for the last 1 month is just getting everyone to familiarize with the project, number one. Number two, getting everybody to be in a team, and then getting that team to understand their role. We have electrical team, we have mechanical team, we have a research team, and then we have finance team. So getting all this team to familiarize with their part, and then when probably that is done and we've learned much of the stuff that needs to be learned, then now we can come to a place where we will now start to look closer into the details. So that is my personal initial way of doing things, unlike where we would have started and we are just checking the budget and saying, no, we don't need this. We need operation cost. We need some maybe for those ones, for the volunteers who will be working with this, maybe they will need t-shirts, maybe they will need this. There will be a point where we will have a physical meeting, we can have it outside, such kind of things. Which are some of the things that you feel this project can accommodate? Which are some of the things that cannot be accommodated with the budget that is currently there, that has been done by the team, which is basically material only? How good is that kind of a budget? Why is it not advisable to have that kind of a budget? Such kind of questions. Yes, Tim. Back to you. Maybe you can make a comment into that, and then we can go back to the team making their raising their questions, comments as we go forward. Back to you, Tim.
Yes. So thank you. Can you hear me, Kidinji, everyone?
Yes, I can hear you, Tim, loud and clear.
Okay. So thank you very much. I think, yes, it's obviously you have also identified the fact that this is mainly just material, and once you receive the material, you have to. There are a lot of things that go with these things, and so you have to be able to answer those questions with the team, the design team, or the teams that you mentioned. All those teams, ideally, maybe not specifically everyone, but maybe the team leads can get the feedback from their teams, and then you can meet with the team leads and discuss what needs to go into it. But with everyone, with whoever's, it's good to get a lot of ideas and narrow down the feasible ones. So initially, I think best thing to do is gather most people's input and narrow down to what's feasible, what can we actually accomplish. So, and again, going back to leveraging skill sets and things like that. So I think, yes, there needs to be more in terms of the actual assembly, what the cost will be for that. Are there things that maybe need added components? So all these things, are they just plug and play, or are they things that will CCTV cameras? I guess those are, so you have to know, are they just plug and play things, or will they come and then there's extra work that needs to be done? So all that needs to be accounted for. But that second part of it, the doing, and is it being done? And what is the space? Where is the space? Is this something that you have space to execute, to do the assembly somewhere? Do you have all the tools you need? Are those things that you're going to rent? So all those things will come into play. So I think your answers will come from in-depth discussion, maybe not on this call, with the team. Gitau?
Yes, Tim. Yeah, I totally get that. Maybe I can give this chance to Samia to make a comment into what you've shared and also the comments I've made and what you've responded to. And then we can now give it back to the team, maybe for anyone else who has a question. Samia?
Hello, Mujingi. Maybe I can give a comment before, maybe as Samia prepares for that.
Chris, please go on.
Yeah, thank you, team. So that was interesting. So for us, initially, when we were doing the proposal, our main thought was that we would buy the materials, do the fabrications ourselves. But to this stage, things have really changed. Or now we figure out this. This was our first project, first of all. So things are changing, and with the training that we have had, with Afri and the other one, we had the perspective on now we are seeing this is actually changing as the day goes by. And we are actually divided the team into sub and we are trying to improve on the budget and to improve on every aspect of the project. So my main question on the now like for last we have 4 teams we are working with. So we have a team working on the electrical part of the project, there's a team working on the mechanical aspect, the structural aspect. So for example, for you when you are working on a big team, some sub team, each sub team is its own budget. How do you follow up on that? Do you have a person doing the finances in each team? Or do you have an application or software that enables you to track that? Love to hear that from you. How do you be able to do that? Yeah, and as Muringa said, maybe as you proceed with the project, you're looking forward to maybe making more improvement. Yeah, so thank you very much. Back to you.
Sorry, for some reason that comment was not very audible.
Okay, so my main concern of the question was that now that our project we have broken down to sub teams. Now for the project, we have a mechanical team, we have an electrical team, and now we anticipate that each team will be dealing with its own budget. The mechanical team will have to do their budget on the mechanical aspect of the structural aspect of the project. The electrical team will also do that, and the other team. So how do you as an expert track that? Maybe for the for Africa, you'll have some sub teams dealing say that will deal with the venue. They'll have their own budget. How do you track that? Do you have given software that you use to track that, or do you have a finance person in every sub team that maybe you'd be able to communicate with about that? So I would love to hear on how you go about on this, so that maybe as we continue improving on our outreach on the project, maybe we can have something to follow from. So thank you. Hope that was clear.
Okay, thank you very much for the question. So I think finance, ideally, what we want in this project is to have a central person. So one person will deal with the overall budget. And you can use Excel and you can have different tabs. So one tab for your mechanical team, one tab for the electrical team. And yes, so you would liaise with the leader of the electrical team and the mechanical team and be talking to them in terms of the specific expenses. But centralize the person keeping track of the finances. So just one person is needed. It's it's not going to be too complex. You can use one Excel, maybe multiple tabs to keep track of the expenses for the different teams and communicate. with the lead of the different teams, and then that way you're able to know what's being done and where we are with specific things. And then you, as or the lead of the person keeping track of all the finances, is responsible when there's a meeting for the whole team for presenting the overall budget. That person is also responsible for doing the final report. So ideally, you want to assign just one person who is responsible for that. So in terms of a treasurer, like myself, that's what I normally would do. But in conjunction, in liaison with everyone else in the team. So I hope that addresses your concern or question.
Okay, thank you. Maybe back to Samuel.
Hello, team. I can see we have some questions on the chat. Maybe I can read them through, and then we can you can respond. Abayomi, you're asking about the report and the Excel sheet. They will be shared, but kindly make sure you are registered on the
Yes.
on the V-tools. Yeah.
All right.
And
Yes. I
yeah,
did.
Humphrey is saying I also see Sydney. Okay. Yes, we'll do that. We asked earlier, but I think him, sorry, but he was in another call. So probably we'll do that in a few. And then there was a question regarding, hello, thank you, team, for the presentation. I have a question. What are we to note in terms of the finances if we want to partner with a company on the project? So maybe I'll give this, I will rephrase this question to sound more real, team. So right now we have MRM, Mabati Rolling Mills, which we are kind of pursuing the partnership. So we are at a point where we don't know, we are not sure if the partnership will work or not. But I'll, based on the question, maybe you can address that in terms of budgeting and finances. How well should the team be prepared? And when we are going to these partnerships, which exact things do we really need to be aware of financial wise? Maybe you can comment into that before we go to the next question. Tim?
Okay, yeah, thank you, Gidenji. So what maybe just a few, what is a partnership for?
So the partnership has been initiated by the pioneer IEEE Moi University social publicity lead, JP Minor. He was there when Moi was launched, and currently he's an employee of MRM. So they have a couple of projects that they have not launched. And one of the areas that we were looking into coming into play with this one is specifically the kind of, they are calling them SAF, I think SAF buildings or something. So this is a technology that they have not really launched into the market. And based on the discussion that we were having with him, it's like if we have a very nice proposal, we can partner with MRM. Of course, we know what we are bringing on board, our value proposition, and then MRM also, they will have to come on board, probably to showcase their technology in form of a CSR, and also to bring the kibanda, quote unquote, the middle kind of economy person to the picture, that they do not only work around the roofing solutions, but they are now working on building solutions. So there was that discussion, and we saw there is room for partnership with them. But again, you know, you can plan and then maybe it fails, or you fail to plan and then it happens, and financial wise, you don't know how to go around it. Probably when they come in, they will say they will do all the structures. Now, what happens in that scenario? I know this is more of a 50-50 kind of a scenario, but for a well planned and a planned team, they need to be aware of these kind of scenarios. Maybe you can comment into that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a good partnership, I would say. So again, going back to stakeholders in terms of this project, we obviously know that MRM can come in as a partner. We know that the people who have initiated this project are HSC. So we do want to find out what their thoughts are or what their guidelines are for having a partner. I think if they allow a partner, then that's okay. We also have to know what, as stakeholders, MRM's, true needs are. Is this an publicity, CSR? So we obviously maybe they want to build it, but then they want to make sure that the smart kibanda says MRM everywhere. Is that acceptable with HSC? Is HAC going to accept that? So we have to go deeper into these agreements. I think it's an exciting opportunity to have MRM as a partner, but you really have to understand the true needs and communicate clearly what is allowed for this project to MRM by HAC. Communicate clearly to HAC what MRM true needs and wants are. So that way you're not caught in the middle as the person who is putting this together and did not meet the needs of HAC or MRM. And ideally, you end up, the volunteers end up basically being very upset if that happens. So that's a very, it's a point of major discussion and going through the details and fully transparency and understanding. So we don't want any challenges down the road. So the other thing is, as you mentioned, if they come in and put the structure together, then the volunteers might not have something to do in the project. My suggestion would be maybe or one of the suggestions would be to ask MRM if the volunteers can work with them as they put the structure together. MRM, again, so it also depends where they want to put it together. MRM is in Riru. Is that Babati?
Maybe Sami, you can comment.
So it depends. So where do they want to put it together? So I don't know if MRM is the one is that the one in Riru?
I'm not sure. I can't comment in terms of their location, but
Correct.
Maybe another thing that you've brought up, Tim, is in terms of yes, at the river.
At the river, okay. So yes. The question is, if they want to put it together in a, and for instance, what we are saying is maybe the volunteers need to be a part of that process so they can learn how to do this and also showcase that they were part of putting it together. How does that work? So that agreement can work because it can add value to the volunteers going to MRM and actually using their facilities and learning how to do this thing. But is that something that MRM is okay with? So those are the kind of things that need to be addressed. Financially, you just need to make sure that whatever is agreed upon is documented and there is references, ideally some sort of agreement that is signed by all parties. So that way there is no negative recourse, negative, anything negative from the end result.
Okay, Tim, maybe I can comment in terms of volunteers maybe lacking something to do. Based on what MRM does with SAF solutions, SAF building solution, is you design and then everything is done with the design that you will give them, everything will be designed, and then they will do the simulation and everything. And then after that, the material will be produced in the industry, or rather in their factory. And this material will be pieces that will be carried into the location where they're supposed to be installed. And then you will just do plug and play, just take parts and then put them together. So that is how, like, they are turning the building solutions into something that can be built in a factory and then be shipped somewhere, and then you just go in there and then you just install everything. So where the discussion around this was with the mechanical team, of course, they will do their initial designs with whatever software they will use. And then after that, they will simulate and make sure everything is okay. If the partnership goes well, they will now go to the MRM engineers with their initial designs, and then those designs will be transferred to their, there is a software they are using, they will be transferred to those software. Of course, the assumption here is that the guys who will do the mechanical design and the electrical design and of everything, they will again work hand in hand with the engineers in MRM to make sure whatever is coming out is exactly as they had envisioned. So I think there is a true way into which the students can learn to doing things in the with the software and the environment they are used to, and also at some point even going further into having that kind of commercial enterprise and maybe industry exposure into how things are done in terms of maybe mass production, among other things, when you are scaling this solution to a different heights. But maybe I'll leave it at that. And then there's a comment from, I don't know who is this again. Is this project only, is this only Moi University project, or can you partner with someone else? So that is what we've been discussing. But again, I think the whole point here is to making sure that whatever we do is in line with HAC, and also if MRM comes on board, they will adhere to the terms and conditions of the HAC, as well as us adhering to that, so that we do not bring in a partner and then halfway we are not really in sync. Yes, but maybe to make a comment into this, previously the project we did with Sally in Kitui, where it was an HAC project. So the HAC covered the hand washing station, and then additionally other things were taken care of by other partners. There were those ones who brought I think 1,500 sanitary towels. There were those ones who did books. There were those ones who did. So of course the HAC agenda will be achieved, but these other partner will bring in additional value. Maybe to just give a thought into this team, and then probably you'll just make your comment, is whatever we're looking into is making sure the smart kibandas are delivered. If initially we would end up maybe doing 5 or 1 or 2, what happens when MRM comes on board, and probably we will end up doing 10, 15 or 20. So maybe you can comment into that, and then I don't know if we have any other person who would like to make a comment in terms of the same.
Yes, Gideon, yes, I think it's a good idea. I think, again, going with the needs or the guidelines for HSE have to be met. The guidelines and the needs for MRM, the true needs, have to also be understood and have to be met. And the needs of this team as stakeholders, the team implementing and participating, also want to be met or need to be met. So with again, HSC has already issued the money for this project. They've initiated it. They have their guidelines. MRM, we need to be clear on what the guidelines are. Would specifically request that you do some sort of agreement, maybe with the Kenya section, because obviously maybe not just some sort of a guide. This is what we are doing, specific this project. These are the guidelines and expectations. Again, you don't want to have a bad reputation or not meet the expectations of a partner such as MRM. So you definitely want to go in it with seeing the value, which is a very good value here for the project and for the volunteers, but also knowing that if it goes sideways, there's high risk. So you definitely want to have clear expectations on both ends, and ideally some sort of agreement. So that way there's no, well, you said this, I said this, or you told me this. So clear expectations. So I think it's a good initiative to pursue when done the right way. That's my comment.
Thank you, Tim. Chris, maybe before Chris, you take over to coordinate if we have any other Q&A. I can see we have someone by the name Paul Luando Hango. Paul, maybe you can make a comment. Hello, Paul, are you there? Okay, seems your mic is not working or you're not speaking. Chris, you can take over.
Okay, thank you, Mulungi. So I don't know if Samia is able to unmute and give her consent since she's our finance person for this project. Yeah, Samia, are you okay? Samia, you are not audible. You are unmuted. Cannot hear you. Okay, so Samia, we cannot hear you. Maybe you can drop your comment on the chat box. So anyone who has a comment on a question, feel free to unmute and table that on the floor. Okay, so see, everything is well said. Since no one has a question. Yes, you. Okay. Yes, thank you very much, Tim. But so I hope you all get something which as we did as part of our project team. Really appreciate you all for joining. Thank you very much, team, for that wonderful presentation. I think now we keep you around as we proceed with the project, as we proceed with the project, as we make our budget revisions here and there. Just keep you around so that you can have some counsel from your side. Thank you very much for that. Maybe if you have any last comments, team, you can be able to do that.
Hi.
Hello.
Sorry, I did not raise my hand when it was our turn to ask questions, but sorry for this, but I have something to seek clarification. First of all, thank you for the nice presentation, team. At least I've learned really much regarding financial stuff in projects. So in the first point, when you said that, okay, the first point of deriving the budget for the whole thing, so what basis do you use? Because different providers have different costs for their products. For example, if you want to buy something, so do you just guess any value regarding the market value, or go with the highest, or you take the moderate or the least? Because it also depends on the types and everything else. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. That was a good question in regards to how you derive the budget cost. So a good rule of thumb is to always budget higher and spend less. So if you're looking at what you put on the budget, should ideally be higher than what you're going to spend. So how do you come up with the number? So obviously, the different teams are doing research. Electrical team is doing research on the materials. Mechanical team is doing research on the materials, and looking for quotes, talking to vendors and looking for quotes. So I think some of the things as some sort of baseline, for instance, going back to Africa, when we looked at vendors, we had suggested getting quotes from 3 vendors. So you can kind of have an average of, okay, so these are the quotes, and then you can say, okay, this is maybe what we need to budget for this, because we at least know maybe 2 vendors will meet this amount. But when you're looking at those numbers, you also have to look at the quality of the product. So the specific teams are more able to tell which maybe sensors are the best, or maybe not the best, but durable and at a good price. So maybe you don't want the best because the best is too expensive. So the best sensor could be $100 by itself, but you could get one for 20 that is maybe not as good as the one for $100, but will do the job. So you also have to weigh those things. So I think the people who are more able to come up with those figures for the specific items would be the teams. So electrical team would have to do the research and come up with the specific electrical items, and mechanical team the same. But before you start doing that, you have to know from the overall cost, how much do you want to assign each team? So, that way they know, okay, electrical, we have $2,000. Mechanical, we have $1,500 from the overall budget. And then within that, they can do their research. So I hope that answers your question.
That was Masjid. I hope that was clear. So any other question for that? So Jim, maybe you can give your final remark.
Okay, did you say give the final remark?
Yeah, you can give. Now, I think since there's no other question, I just give you a chance for final remarks, and we'll only then be able to close up.
Okay, so thank you very much for the opportunity to speak, to present this, to speak about the project finances. As I mentioned, I will share the presentation with Kidinji and Chris, and they can share with whoever is registered. And I also shared my email on the chat. So if you have specific project questions, you can reach out and I can respond. Maybe not as fast, but I will try to do my best. Otherwise, there's also some very good resources, online resources that I have included on this PowerPoint. So look into those and others. A lot of this information is, again, as engineers, you learn from online and other things and the resources, but then you also have to come to such projects and actually implement what you have learned. So this is a good opportunity for some of you engineers to start learning and implementing finances, which I would urge you to do, because even as an engineer, if you're working as a professional, you will have to deal with finances or deal with a finance team in your organization. So again, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Before I give it back to Mujiongi, I see there are some team names for the projects who are around, and we can give them a chance to they give their concern. That so Bernard, Ben Salsi, can I need to give a concern on that?
Thanks, Chris. Sorry I joined in late, but from the last bit, the team did talk. I think it's incredible, quite well. So as a team, we're going to re-strategize and work even much better than this. And we're looking forward even to get more help whenever we need to consult. Yeah. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, Ben. Alan, are you there? Alan Kimiri, have any concern?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Lucy, will share the recording for this. So I've seen your email to copy that. Yeah, so if Alan is not there, I'll give it back to you, Mujiongi. You can give your final remarks.
Thank you, Chris. I can see Lucy is now commenting on the chat. Maybe Lucy, you can make a comment before we close. We are still on time. We're supposed to end at 6:30 East African time. Lucy, are you there? Lucy Patricia Onundo? Okay. Let me say thank you very much, everyone, for joining in. More specifically, team, for accepting our call and being there on time. And I believe 1.5 hours session is quite much, but being there to provide your skill and share with us all and answer the questions, it has really been helpful. And I'm hoping that the team will and of course have learned much from this, as much as I've also done. To the professionals and young professionals who have joined us, we are really grateful. And this, again, I always keep on mentioning this to students. If someone who has been in industry for 20 years can afford 1.5 hours to come in and listen to this financial talk, it goes without saying that as a student, you are really getting a resource and you are really getting a knowledge that is very much appreciated out here. To our team and participants from other countries, we have people from Nigeria, Ghana, Zimbabwe, South Africa. We are really grateful. I think it goes without saying that despite the challenge that we've all been claiming about, the virtual fatigue and all that, there is that privilege to attend a conference or maybe to attend a session outside your country, and which will not really be possible if maybe this kind of online and virtual technology have not been embraced. That's all. To the rest of the team organizers, I think this is really good, and I hope we are learning. And as we keep on going, this is our third session. Of course, I mentioned this. We started with project management. from Hilary Mutuma. We did leadership and volunteering in such kind of environment from Humphrey Mwindi, who happened to be colleague to Tim, both in Kenya section and also in IEEE African Council as a secretary. And then today we have financial engineering. We are looking into either next week, but one having a product development talk, just to get to understand. Now we know how to manage projects. We know how to deal with people. And also we now have a feel of the budgeting, how important the cash is. The next session is now, how do we now build this thing? How do we build it now? Making sure that mechanical team, electrical team, and everybody is coordinating, and we are putting into consideration the leadership aspect, the volunteer aspect, the timelines, the budgets, and all these things. So we'll do that. We are still looking into getting a speaker who is well versed into this area, and I'm hoping to see very good numbers into that webinar. To the noises that have been coming from my end, I'd like to say pardon for that, but again, she's very happy. She has been listening through, and I think that is all I can say. So that they are necessary noises, they are not unnecessary noises. I hope it's understood. And thank you, and thank you very much, team. We can leave it at that point. Shukran, everyone.